All right. So this is the Kirkland Lake Discoveries October 2024 investor presentation. My name is Stefan Sklepowicz. I'm the interim CEO. I'll be making forward-looking statements throughout this presentation. I encourage you to take your time, do your own due diligence before investing in our story. Now, for those of you that don't know, we are located within the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. This is one of the most prolific belts in the world with over 300 million ounces of gold discovered to date. Specifically, our company is really focused on district scale exploration associated with large regional structures. The largest structure in this camp is the Larder Lake Cadillac Fault Zone. It has over 100 million ounces of gold associated with it, and we're working within specifically the Blake River group of rocks. Now, the Blake River group of rocks might not be well known to you, but they're highly associated with mineralization on the Quebec side of the border, where they've mined almost $200 billion worth of metals. Now, when we zoom in a little bit at the Blake River, what you're going to notice is that there's a large difference between the number of deposits that have been found on the Quebec side versus the Ontario side. Now, there's a few reasons for that. One being, and the most prominent, is the detail of mapping on the Ontario side is significantly lower. There's a lot of predicted lines where you just have a straight line on the map as compared to the detail that you see on the Quebec side of the border. There's also cover on the Ontario side, so overburden covering a lot of that bedrock, so you can't tell exactly what's happening there. And the third thing is that there's been dogma in that camp that there's no gold north of the Kirkland Lake break. And so a lot of times that exploration effort wasn't necessarily there on that Ontario side. We believe that mineralization doesn't stop at the Quebec border. You know, geology doesn't adhere to man-made borders, and so we assume that that's going to continue across the border. There's a deposit right at the edge of the Quebec border, the Labyrinth mine, with over 500,000 ounces of gold. It's on the Mulvin Lake Fault, and that Mulvin Lake Fault continues across our border. There are many reasons why we think that there's mineralization on the Ontario side of those Blake River rocks. Another example of that is the Upper Beaver deposit, which was recently announced to be going into production by Agnico Eagle. It has 3.2 million ounces of gold and is rising with the more exploration that they're doing. It's on the Victoria Creek Deformation Zone, another second order structure coming off of the Larder Lake Cadillac Fault Zone. Then we also have the Macassa mine and the Mile of Seven mines directly in Kirkland Lake. And Macassa has over 5 million ounces, is still producing, and is on that Kirkland Lake main break, another mineralized structure. Across our border, or across our property, there's a lot of different mineralization. There's old workings, there's shafts with the Walsh Shaft, Copper King, the Kirana mine, Hargreaves. All of these things are pointing to mineralization on our property. And we have lots of gold showings across this property. You know, high grade intercepts, large intercepts at lower grade, all over the place. This is a century-old mining camp, and with that, it's taken a long time to accumulate this land position, but it's now the largest in the camp with 38,000 hectares. It's over 53 kilometers wide, stretching from west of Kirkland Lake all the way to the Ontario border. Our team is dedicated to accumulating large data sets to explore in a systematic way. We have multiple data sets over the entire property already, but the one that we're working on most recently is a geochemistry grid on the west side of the property. These soils are giving us a glimpse undercover and to see exactly what we can expect in that bedrock. Our first level of analysis of this was to really look at those assays and see, do they compare to anything else that's found in the camp? So with this one in particular, it was VMS, where we looked at zinc, lead, copper, and nickel. And what we see is those pink hotspots are where we're in the 97th, 98th percentile for prospectivity. And so some areas really highlighted that there could be VMS potential on our side of the property as well. And if we change that lens of focus a little bit in those Pathfinder elements, and we look at specifically lode gold or gold potential in general, we notice that entire area really lit up for prospectivity. So it's wide and broad, which tells us this is a very fertile system. there is a northwest trending structure that we were talking about, the Victoria Creek Deformation Zone. The proposed extension of that is going right through the middle of those pink dots. And so we're hoping that that's associated with that structure as well, which we know is a mineralized structure. And then if we change that lens one more time to look at intrusion-related gold, and what we really noticed here was those hot spots were directly related to the margins of that granite intrusion in the center of the property. So that led us to explore this a little bit further. And we go, okay, so those margins clearly mean something. This could be influencing those rocks around it. So what work's been done off of our property that has explored these margins? And what that led us to was the Winnie Lake showing from 1989, where there was a VMS style of mineralization that was intersected over 22.5 meters. It had 2.6% copper, 2.8% zinc, it had silver, almost a gram per ton gold. And when we plotted it, it showed up on a magnetic high directly on the margin of that intrusion. And so this got us excited. We go, okay, so is this related to that magnetic high? Is that a coincidence? We don't really know at this point in time, but it's something to explore further. What else we saw was that there were multiple of these magnetic highs surrounding that intrusion at those margins. Now, up to this point in time, we'd always associated this granite as a tombstone granite. There's been, people had taken rock samples of it and they never ran. And so it was like, okay, well, don't worry about that granite. So we only ran our soils to a certain point. But given this new information, what we did in the fall was extend that soil grid all the way down to cover those margins of that intrusion and those magnetic highs. So that's since been completed, but we're waiting on those results to come back, those assays to come back. Once those assays come back, we're going to be doing an in-depth analysis of all of the geochemistry. While we're completing the soil geochemistry work and the analysis of it, we're going to be moving our drill-ready targets forward. One of those is Hargreaves, which is held by multiple companies over the last 40 years, all of whom have advanced this project piece by piece with IP, soils, really good geological mapping, and some historic drill holes from the 30s. And so we're going to be following that up with our own drilling to test if that mineralization is consistent and to see what else is there. The other thing that we're working on right now is analyzing all of these layers of data that we've gotten. Now, we reached out to ALS Gold Spot to look at using a conductor analysis over the property because we have EM over the entire property. And with VMS, EM will really highlight if there's conductive bodies. And so in the initial run to see if this was an appropriate test, we got them to do a quick look at the data. And what they found was this one hotspot that aligned perfectly with an existing showing, and that aligned exactly with our VMS prospectivity high. So this got us really excited, and we've moved forward with doing a full analysis of all of this line data, over 7,000 kilometers, where they can do an anomaly detection to go, yep, this is somewhere where you should be focusing in. When that aligns with our geochemistry that we already have on the property, that will give us a target to test in the winter, spring, and summer of next year with drill testing. And so this is a really exciting time for us, and we're really happy to be doing all of this work and moving this project forward in a systematic fashion. The board of directors that we have supporting us here are a field of experts. They have experience making discoveries, raising capital, building up deals, selling them off, machine learning. They cover a wide range of expertise, and they're here to help guide this project forward in the best way possible. The team that I have is consisted of two sides of the coin. We have a lot of experience in some of our team members, and we have that young, hunger, discovery-focused aspect of the team. And with that comes this amazing dynamic. And one of the things that I want to do is share that with all of our shareholders, all of our potential investors. And what I want to do is bring you along on the KLDC treasure hunt. And so what we're committing to doing is bi-weekly or weekly updates explaining exactly what we're doing, exactly what's going on, giving you consistent updates as to exactly, where we are and what we're doing and what's exciting and what's new, Get that behind the scenes. We want you to join in the hunt, following these breadcrumbs as we're working our way towards to discovery. It's going to be that omniscient storytelling where we can, basically summarize all these things into nice short snippets that you can just watch and get that update as we're working along. So if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. I always answer the phone. I always answer emails. If you want more information, go to kirklandlakediscoveries.com. We have a lot of technical information there that you can work through. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and stay tuned for what comes next. Thank you.